Bigger battles. Let's take a look at the third scenario. They're here in the back. Breakout. So good old Jay Wiley says, make sure you're using a 6x4 foot table. We'll have a river here. Side 1 is going to set up here on the bridge on that side of the river. Side 2 is going to put one unit at each of these crossroads, a couple of hills, trees. Yeah, I ignored those buildings there. Because I am using half-scale 15mm figures on a table that measures, so it's half scale, right? 2 feet deep is actually 4 feet. Hey, that's pretty good. But I'm only measuring 30 inches from here to here. So double that, 60 inches, that's 5 feet. I'm losing 6 inches off of either side. That might make a difference. However, in order to speed things along, I went ahead and rolled to see who sets up first, who's where. The French are going to be side 1. They start inside the town, and one unit is on the north side of that river. The British then set up on the points, A, B, C, and D, the road points. Now, Jay Wiley, the mad genius behind this, first of all, I should point out, oh, that's really bright, isn't it? Okay, so in the rule book, right, bigger battles, he's got some really great scenarios. He's got scenario 4, seek and destroy. He's got a bonus scenario, hold for reinforcement. Scenario 4 is so nice. He gave it to us twice. I'm just ribbing him, right? And besides, that's a joke so nice, I use it thrice. We'll get to it. But there's something a little confusing about this. This is one thing I don't understand. It says, Side 2 must split its forces evenly. Okay, right, so it's a surrounded thing. And Side 1 is trying to escape off of point D. So the victory, Side 1 must try to get half of its units off the table at D. Well, all right, easy enough. They have 4 units plus their commander. He doesn't count as a unit. So they got to get 2 units off this. And they don't have to be full strength. They can be less than half strength as long as they get off. We put the 12, the full unit here of British regulars. Okay, but here's what I don't understand. Side 1 sets up first, so the French did that, and they set up their cannon, notice, facing that way, their cavalry on that side of the river, and the 2 line infantry kind of there and there, right? The British responded by putting their line infantry here to try to slow these guys down long enough for the cannon to get some licks in, for the light cavalry to ride in. Both the cannons are light cannons, by the way. They're going to roll 3 dice. The French have heavy cavalry. The British have light cavalry. And then we have 1 unit of skirmishers over here. So they're basically going to deny this. We got to talk about that cannon. We'll get to that in a minute. But first, I got to explain something here. Right? So if we look at this, we do this setup. Side 2 is closing in on them, right? Okay. Side 2 must split. Side 1 sets up first. Side 2 then sets up. Okay, no turn limit. That's nice. Side 1 must try to get half its units. Side 2 has been tasked with clearing Side 1. Well, wait a minute. It says Side 2 enters and sets up. So what I've done is I've interpreted that to mean that during the battle, they're going to enter from, they have to set up, like declare where you're coming from. And then their first action is going to be to move onto the table. So don't let the fact that I've got these guys placed right here fool you. Their first action will be to spawn, and then they'll be able to take their second action. Now, I know Bigger Battles doesn't use 2 actions, but I think you get the gist, right? They're going to have to decide, are they going to do a double move, or are they going to move and then shoot, and then they'll shoot from here. And what that does is it basically expands my table by, these guys move 4 inches, so it's 4 inches bigger that way, and then 2.5 inches on all sides. That gives me just a little bit more breathing room, and we're ready to go. We've got rough going. The hills are rough going. When you're moving up, when you're moving down, they are not. You cannot cross the river except at the ford. The roads don't really matter. They're just for looks. And then, of course, the woods and the buildings block line of sight. The hills block line of sight. The general for the British is over here. He's going to try to help these 2 guys out. And I think we're just about ready to go. The one last thing we need to talk about is this cannon. Is this cannon limbered or unlimbered? And I don't know. The issue is going to be that if it's set up and it's limbered facing in that direction, they can fire on turn 1, but they're locked in. They're going to have to take a full turn. If they want to move at all or even pivot, they're going to have to take a full turn to get limbered. move on a turn, and then take another turn to get prepped. So it's going to be 3 turns where they're not able to fire as they get back into position, right? That could be important because you've got some skirmishers there who ignore rough going. They are going to be able to hop over this hill and then move over around to this side. So that could be important. I don't know if it is or not. What I'm going to do is I'm going to roll on a 1 through 6. They have to set up. On a 7 or higher, they're already unlimbered. All right, so they're set up, ready to fire. To save us all a little bit of time, I think the hour-long videos is a bit much. You guys are just going to have to trust me on this. I've shuffled the cards. I deal them out fair and square. I don't have a dog in this fight. I just want to see what's going to happen. It'll save us a little bit of time in the end if I just deal them out. So the 5 cards in the center here are for the French. The ones around the side are for the British. And our general gets to go first. So he's going to go ahead and reposition. Looking at that's the 3. He's going to go ahead and reposition the 8 inches basically right up to here. And he is going to be +1 to shooting, but of course he's not shooting. Then we have a whole lot of low cards. The 7s are going to go next. The 7 of spades has 1 reroll for the turn, and they're actually going to hold their action. I'm going to put a little hold action on there to remind me. They don't have anybody to fire at. The British are not on the table. So that being the case, since we're looking at our cavalry here, these guys are going to have 1 reroll this turn. And I am going to position them to receive this charge. Actually, they don't really have to, do they? They are also going to hold their action. And I've only got 2 hold actions, so I hope that's the last one. In fact, I think it is because we've got this unit of British infantry goes, and then this wait a minute. So the 2 7s went. Yeah, this unit of British infantry is going to move straight up to here, and then the other unit, the general will go next, and then the other unit will move back. We're going to let the light cavalry charge on this 5 of clubs. And this gets fun because they're light cavalry. So these guys have an interrupt. They're going to use that. And they can use that interrupt to countercharge the light cavalry. And for today, we are going to be rolling whoever is the attacker rolls first, does their wounds, and then the survivors get to counterattack. But this one's a little different because we need to figure out if these guys can countercharge. On a 5 up, it's a little cocked, we're going to re-roll. They get a 6, so they countercharge. But when these guys are charged, do we call that countercharge a charge? Yeah, let's do it. Because what happens is these guys can make, if they make they are slippery. If they make a 5-up task, then they can shoot at half strength and make a move action. They got a 5, so that's what they're going to be able to do. They have carbines and hand weapons. The carbines mean they get to roll. Now, you see there's 8 of them, so they're going to get to make 4 shots at close range. They are hitting on 5s. We got 10, 10, 5, 6, so they get 5 hits. We roll for wounds. And we get a 6. And so that 6 eliminates 1 heavy cavalry. And then we get 3 shock markers on that cavalry. Then our light cavalry can make so I guess we should, that was the shoot. So they've appeared on the table, and then they're going to make a move action, which will be like 4 inches. And I think just for the sake of simplicity, let's move them like this, because they can just kind of slide over out of the way. Now, they do get a reload marker. They're going to have to spend a turn reloading their carbines. I'm not sure they want to do that. But it is what it is, right? That's the rule. So these guys countercharged. These guys evaded. And what do we do? Does our countercharge take us up to here, I guess? Now, I should separate them a little bit. They are not in close order. All right, and then we'll pull the camera back to where our light infantry come on the board. They enter, and the cannon says, fire. So the cannon now is going to roll 3d10. That is a light cannon. It has a range of 18 inches. If they are within 9 inches, so here's 9 inches from the cannon to the guys. They're not. So at 18 inches, they are going to have to roll. Now they do get, when you hold your action, you don't get the special ability. So it's just going to be 3 shots hitting on 8s because it's long range. We get 2 9s and a 7, so 2 hits. And then we get a 6 and a 9, so that's 2 casualties for this unit here. And then this unit says, oh, the heck with this. They ain't paying me enough to do that. And they're going to move to, 2.5 inches is only going to put them right here. So okay. I'm not going to speculate. Basically, they are just able to get to the base of the hill on this turn. Then we've got this cannon appears. It can move another 1.5 inches, and they really want to do that because they're going to wind up coming over. No, 3 inches rather. Well, okay. So if it's unlimbered, it can move 6 inches, but because we're half scale, it's going to appear, and it's going to come on 3 inches, and our guys are going to wind up right here like so. Hoping to get a shot through here. Next turn, they'll set up, and we'll see if either this cannon or these guys, do they have it? They also have a shot. Tell you what we're going to do. We're going to pivot it like this. So here's their 90 degrees along this, and then there's the other 90 degrees. So they can shoot into the town proper if need be. See how there's 3 guys? That's why they roll 3 dice. Then these guys appear, and they're in trouble because they're facing 2 units of infantry. That means they appear, and then they're going to take a shot. Do we want to do that right now? They have muskets with a 9-inch range. Are they even in range? They are. Yeah, we're going to go ahead and take the shot. So we get a low on ammo. They're going to have to reload. If you don't reload, then you fire at half ability. But these guys have 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12 guys. I just happen to have 12, 4, 8, 12 D20s. Now, at long range, they need an 8 to hit. But they moved, so they need a 9 to hit. But the British line are dead eyes. They're +1 to shoot. That means they are going to need an 8 to hit. So rolling, and we will target the nearest group. This one's a little bit closer. So looking for 8s. The odd one is a 10. Let me roll. I'm going to count this one as a 10. That's our hit. Okay. And then we have anything that is... Oh, boy. This is a pretty good shot. They got a total of 1. No, that's a 7. That doesn't count. So they got 2. That's a 7. So they got 5 hits. I still think 5 hits is pretty good. Rolling for casualties on this unit here. The 10 does 2, 4, 5. So 5 casualties. This was a 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 casualties. I'm going to... Oh, that's it. That's the leader for this unit. And I'm going to slide this guy over just so that you can see where the separation between the units is. 5, 2, 4, 6, 7. Yeah, there's 7 guys there. And then these guys also pick up a pair of shock, which is going to slow them down by 1 inch on every move action. That's the end of the first turn. Time to shuffle them up and deal them out. I know this is a lot of cards. Unfortunately, the heavy cavalry, these guys are sacrificial lambs trying to buy time for these guys to get off the board. They were dealt the 2. The good news is the cannon, which did fire. Let me pull out my reload markers. And if you're going to play bigger battles, I highly recommend, if you go to wiley-games.com, you can get a bunch more of these markers. You're going to need them because you're going to generate a lot more shock markers. As long as your boys have less shock than dudes, they can continue to operate. Not well, but they can do that. As I said, that cannon has fired. And that cannon is going to go... No, these guys get to go first. The Jack of Hearts. And we can either fire at half Or we can... Oh, these guys are casualties. Let me move these casualties out of here. We can either fire at half, which means we're rolling 6 dice, hitting on... Now, if they don't move, they're going to be hitting on 7s. And I think that's the way to do it. I think we're just going to stand there plinking away. They're +1 to shooting because it's the Jack of Hearts, the one-eyed jacks, and the kings with the axe. So given that we're shooting at +1, we'll take the hit. We'll roll 6 dice, and now they're at +1 for Eagle Eye, +1 for the card, +1 because they're not moving this time. Now, they don't have any way to fall back. If they fall back, they're out of the game. So they're at a total of +3. Normally it's an 8 at long range, and we're just going to try to wipe out this unit, all right? So normally it's an 8 at long range, +3. They're hitting on 5s. Let me move this card out of the way. And that's going to be a 4. Using D20s is very simple. We've got, if it's above 10, you subtract 10. So this 11 becomes a 1. 12 becomes a 2. The 3 stays a 3. The 4 is still a miss. We get 2 hits, and then we roll for wounds, and we get an 8 and a 5, which is another casualty, and another shock. So we have eliminated 2, 4, 6 of those guys, and they now have 3 shock. Then it's going to be the cannon gets to go. They're going to go ahead and reload. +1 to close combat doesn't do them much good, does it? Then we slide down to the 9 of spades, and he's going to kind of slide over to here. We want that general to be within 6 inches of this unit so that he can start having some effect on them. Like if they take any shock, which is a good bet they probably are, we're going to need him nearby to start stripping it off. Now, oh, you know what I forgot? The King of Hearts. These guys actually went first, and these guys actually... Who is this card for? Did I deal out an extra card? Was this the card from last time? So there's the General. All right, I don't know which of these cards belongs to him, so I'm going to roll on a 1 through 10. It's the 4. Yeah, it's a 7. Okay, so this king is just a misdeal. Sorry about that, guys. They're going to be acting on the 4, which means this general gets to go next, and he's going to take advantage of the fact that these guys are going to be setting up, and he wants to get within 6 inches of these guys. If he can, so he can ride 4 inches back, and that puts him within 6 inches, so he can say, hey, get your act together. And that eliminates 1 shock from that unit. Then it's going to be the 5 of clubs. So these guys are shocked and appalled. They are going to be moving at less than half speed. There's only 6 of them. They've got 3 shock. If we try to move, they're only going to be able to move 2 inches if they're moving on the double. On the other hand, we've got a nice big unit over here. So I think what we'll do is we'll go ahead and give them the opportunity to try to recover. So we're going to roll 3 dice. And now they are within 6 inches of the boss man. So every 4 or better, they're going to... Oh, you know, we might have been better off leaving him here, because if he used both his actions, he could eliminate all these shock. Well, what do you get? He's got to try to help him out both, right? Okay, so, as I was saying, 3 dice, every 4 or better will remove a shock. We got 9, 9, 10, no more shock for these guys. And then it's going to be the 4 of spades moving next. All right, we don't want any more of that cannon. We're going to go ahead and move 5 inches to get to the backside of this hill. And we may be able to move into these woods to put some more fire on anybody that's trying to escape. So as I said, we're going to bring them up like this. They're now on the back side of the hill, so they can't be shot at by the cannon. And that is the 4 of spades. Then we have the 4 of clubs, and these guys are going to go ahead and move at the double. So 5 inches brings them all the way up to here. I know they're going to take a beating on the next turn. But if we can give these guys the old 1-2, these British, the old 1-2 punch, we may be able to slip both of these units off. Then it's going to be the 4 of diamonds, and as I said, this cannon is going to be setting up. Then these guys have to decide what they're going to do, and really the only thing they can do is charge these guys right here. So they move into, you're supposed to be 1 inch away, by the way, but they're going to move into contact. I think it's pretty obvious. And those light cavalry now, they are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 7, 8. So we got 8 dice. I reposition these guys to make it clear that they're face-to-face in a scrum. The combat is simultaneous. I misread the example given in the book. So what we're going to do is we're going to roll 8 dice for the light cavalry. Now, the light cavalry are regulars. They hit on 5s, but because they're the attackers, they're going to be hitting on 4s. You get a +1 when you're the attacker. So 8 dice hitting on 4s. They're going to get a total of 1, 2, and here's a 4. That's the difference. And so they get a total of 4 hits altogether. We will roll for casualties on those 4 hits. And it's going to be a 7, 5, 1, and a 20. Now, I should point out, if you roll more 1s than hits on a close combat, you fall, regardless of who wins, you fall back and get a shock. Bit of a fumble there. In this case, we're going to get 2 shock and 3 casualties. So let me pull these 3 back. And the number of shock on this unit goes from 2 to 4. We'll take a look at what that means in a second. Now we need to roll for the heavy cavalry. Now, the heavy cavalry, they can re-roll missed melee attacks. They ignore shock in melee, so they are still going to get 5. They're heavy guys, right? They're still going to get their 5 dice, even though we had 2 shock markers. Normally, shock reduces melee. It doesn't because they have a special ability. So rolling for 5s. Now, they are going to be hitting on 5s. Because they're regulars, and we get a total of 1, 2, 3, 4 hits for those guys. And, oh, I'm sorry, they get to re-roll that miss. Looking for a 5, they get 5 hits altogether. Rolling for casualties, they get a 10 for 2, 8, 2, 3, 4. A 9 is 2 casualties. They are going to do 6 casualties to this light infantry. And this is why the light infantry much prefers to fight. And then 1 shock on these guys. They much prefer to fight from a distance. They like that slipperiness. And it's pretty clear. With 6 hits to 3 wounds, who the winner is. The heavy cavalry, despite being shocked and outnumbered, has won this. So these guys have to fall back 4 inches. To here. Let's see, from front to front, they fall back to here with their shock and their out of ammo. And these guys get to make a 4-inch follow-up move, which means we have to fight. Oh, wait a minute. These guys, I got this wrong. These guys have a shock. They're only going to fall back 3.5 inches. These guys have 1, 2, 3, 4. They're only going to be able to pursue 2 inches. Leaving a gap of 1.5 inches. That is where we finally end things. Except it's now that heavy cavalry's turn, and on the 2 of cards, they get to roll 2 dice when they're rolling dice. Which means, now, here's where it gets interesting. These guys have 4 shock markers. When you have 4 shock markers, you have to regroup. Regroup means fall back 2 moves. So this is their action for the turn. They're going to fall back 8 inches. Oh, but wait a second. Each move is only going to be 2 inches. So in this case, they're going to fall back 4 inches, and we're going to bring them back to the ford. And then you remove shock markers until you only have 1 per guy. Which brings us to the end of the turn. Things are looking, they're still in balance. It's still anybody's game. Looking at things, our cannon gets to go first. They are already reloaded. What do we want? Now, you can move 1.5 inches with these guys, but it's a little bit wonky. I was looking at the rules for this, and artillery, unlimbered, they can move 1.5 inches. But they are classed as, where is it, crew. So here we go. This crew is going to go ahead and limber up. Gannon goes first. Queen of spades. Then the jack's going to get to go. This is a unit with 12 shots, shooting at +1. And oh, by the way, muskets have a range of 4.5 inches, which they are within. So by holding still, at short range, they hit on 5s. Because they haven't moved, they hit on 4s. Because they've got +1 to shooting, they're going to be hitting on 3s, and they're going to get to roll 12 dice. Let me pick these up over here. 12 dice, hitting on 3s. This could be ugly. This is a 3. This is kind of cockamamie. I'm going to re-roll this 1. It becomes a 10. Okay. This is the cocked one. I just pulled off a miss and rolled it. As I said, hitting on 3s. We got a miss. So that's it. We get a total of 9 hits. And we're going to roll 9 casualties. Or make 9 wound rolls. We are going to get a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh my goodness. All of these are going to be shock. And they're going to do just 2 casualties. So we're going to pull off 2 of these soldiers. And then we have a total of 8 shock being dropped on these 10 guys. I warned you we were going to be going through a lot of shock markers. Fortunately for both of us, tiny little poker chips, tiddlywinks, if you will. I've got a stack of 8 of them there now. So not a lot of wounds, but 8 shock markers is a lot. In fact, it's going to be their turn, and they're going to have to ready their action, because if they try to shoot right now, it's not going to go well. So I'm going to drop a ready action on that card, and then we're going to cycle back around. And looking at these cards, we go, okay, so here's a 7 of hearts. We'll bring these guys up 5 inches to, well, we're actually going to hold them back just a little bit, because we need, and just to make it clear, I'm going to put these guys on the road. We need these guys. Oh, except you know what we might need to do? This cannon is going to be hard. He's going to get to take a shot. You know what? We're just going to take it. They get 1 reroll for the turn, but they've moved up the 5 inches. They're a little bit back, so they're not the closest to this unit. Because we are not stupid. We see what's going to happen. This commander is going to use his action. He is encouraging. He can automatically remove all shock as a full action. He's going to remove all of these shock. But that's all he's going to be able to do. And then they'll use their ready action right now to fire at these guys. Again, they're only going to get to roll 6 dice. And they're going to be at -1 because they're firing with a... Oh, they have to fire at the nearest group. This is why these guys stayed a little bit back. Because firing at the nearest group means they can't wipe this one out. So, with, 2, 4, 6, 8, 9. Oh, they're only going to get to roll... Wait, did we lose a couple of guys? They've lost... Did I have a couple fall or something? I thought they had 12. No, there's 10 guys. Okay, that's right, 10 guys. Sorry, counting is fundamental. I missed that day at school. Y'all forgive me. So we got 10 guys. They're going to be shooting. They're low on ammo, so they're going to be shooting at half strength, but they're at close range now. So they're hitting on 5s, and they are concentrating fire, and they are Deadeye. So that's down to 3, but because this is now a held action, it goes back up to 4. So 5 dice looking for 4s. They get a total of 4. They got 1 miss. Rolling for 4 casualties. They get a 9, a 10, an 8, and a 4. So these guys pick up a shock, and they take a total of 5 casualties. That is that British marksmanship really taking its toll here. These guys pick up a shock. That's going to slow them down. And then we are going to be looking at the 6 back here. They get a free reload, which they haven't actually used yet. We're going to go ahead and fall back 6 inches to here. Yikes, because they have these two shock markers. Normally it would be 8, so they're only moving 3 inches on an action because of these two shock markers. Then it's going to be the 5. It's going to be this light cavalry is going to let's reload. These guys are primarily shooters. We're going to reload. Then it'll be the 3 of diamonds over here. We're bringing our reinforcements down. These guys can move through the woods. Now, here's the trick. If they move to here, this is the 5 inches. They cannot fire through 1 inch of woods, so they're going to have to fire in this direction, unless they want to move 5 inches down to here. Now, the good news is, so I guess what I'm trying to tell you is, they have to choose between being in the open and risking being shot at. That's kind of far. This guy's only moved 5 inches. They're going to be something like this. They have to choose between being in the woods, taking advantage of the cover of the woods, but not being able to shoot the road, or being out here in the open and having the line of fire. So they're going to stop in the open, take the line of fire. They do have rifled muskets, which means they do have a much long, well, what is it? It's actually a 12-inch range. 6 inches is near range, so that's good for them. We're very happy for them. Then the 2 of spades gets to go, roll 2 dice, take the better. Let's see what that means in the context of cannon fire, shall we? After checking the rules, for bigger battles, they may re-roll misses for 1 throw of the dice. So we are going to roll our 3 dice. This particular cannon has a range of, it is a light cannon. At 9 inches is close range. That's 9 inches. 18 inches, this is the nearest unit that they have line of sight to. These guys are hiding behind the building. This general is hiding behind that building, so they have to shoot at this unit. They're going to roll 3 dice, re-rolling misses. They get a 10, 7, and 4. And I guess I should point out, because they're a long range, they're hitting on 8s. Need to reload. So they'll re-roll a 4, looking for an 8. They got a 7, so they only got 1 hit. But that might be enough. And all it does is deliver a shock. Kablam. The cannon's not so useful at long range. And then we have our leader, who is within 6 inches of these 2 cavalry boys. So he's going to say, get rid of the shock, would you? Be risky. These guys are pretty close. He may get tagged. But that does free these guys up to run interference. They may be able to come over here to cut these guys off and allow these guys to swarm through. Although that's still a lot of guys. We've got a total of 6, 12, 13 versus these 10 guys. British marksmanship. I know this is a pretty static shot for this particular battle. What can I tell you? Bigger battles, fistful of lead. The whole table is in play almost the whole time. These 5 cards are for the French. The 5 cards on the outside are for the British. And we have a couple of aces, 1 for the British, 1 for the French. Who wants to go first? Well, if we give them the kings, then this boss man is going to go first, and we're going to do that. We're going to move him the 4 inches up to here, keeping him out of sight of this cannon, and then he is within 6 inches, so he can use one of his actions to remove that shock. And that is going to be that Aces Wild. These guys also played the king because they really want to go. And, oh, man, you're in the way. So they're going to have to make their first move. And light infantry are able to move. Let's see, they ignore terrain. They can move and shoot without penalty. So I got to move this guy out of the way. So they are going to be able to move up the 2.5 inches to here. And this guy comes up to here. They're going to be kind of, well, I'm actually going to pull him back just a little bit so we can get like 3 across, and then we'll pile in back here. You do have the option, if we had time, we would be able to, banner goes up front, right? You can go to close order. Problem is that cannon. If you're in close order, it makes it a lot easier to get shot to ribbons by the cannon. So we've pulled our guys over here, and they're going to take a shot. We've got 2, 4, 6, 8 of them. They're still loaded. They are within 6 inches. So it's going to be hitting on 4s. It's going to be hitting on 5s. With no penalty for the movement. It's just going to be hitting on 5s. Unless I'm missing something. Move and shoot without penalty. That's all it is. So that is going to be... Oh, this 6 is for the general there. So it is going to be a total of 2, 4, 6, 8 dice. 5, 6... I don't want to use that one. That one's really hard to read on camera. All right, there we go. 8 dice. 2, 4, 6, 8 dice for the skirmishers here. And we are looking for 5s. We're going to get a grand total of 1, 2, 3, 4. Rolling for wounds. We get a 1, 2, and a pair of... We get a pair of 2s, pair of 8s. A couple of pairs is going to be 2 casualties and 2 shock on that unit right there. Who's up next? We got a Queen of Hearts now. Recover from wounds. Well, we don't have any wounds. Do we want to make a recovery check that takes 2 actions? I don't think we do. I think we want to pursue. We have reloaded. These guys are going to be able to move 7 inches if they do a double move. So there's your 5. They're basically just going to be able to move to the ford, like so. But they are a bit shocked. So if they fire, they're only going to get to fire 1 until they get rid of that shock. But that does put more pressure on the French over here. The next highest card is going to be the 10, which is this shocked all to pieces. And I think, now, are they within 6 inches of the general? That's 6 inches right there. No, they are not. So do we do a recovery check? Because they have 3 shock. I think we need to. Which means... Or do we just charge in? If they attack these guys, they're only going to get to roll 2 dice in melee. Or, oh, you know what else we could do? Since they have not fired yet, the French they are steady. They ignore shock when shooting. Why don't we go ahead and... Wait, didn't they shoot last turn? I feel like they shot already. Did we reload with those guys? Did they get a free reload? I might have forgot to drop a you have fired marker down on those guys. My bad, if that's the case, and if it is, I'm sure we'll hear about it in the comments. I welcome that. It is what it is. I didn't mark it, so maybe you guys got a free reload out of it. 5 guys, ignoring shock. They get to roll 5 dice. Shooting at this guy right here is going to get... and they are at close range. So they're hitting on 5s. Because they have not moved, they're hitting on 4s. They're going to get a grand total of 1, 2, 3, 4 hits. And that is going to result in 2, 4, 5 casualties and 1 shock. Blah, 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 blam. So we'll take these guys off. We will drop one more. We will drop a shock down here. And that was on the 10 of diamonds. The next highest card is the 7 of spades. 1 reroll this turn. I'm going to park that over there because we're going to charge into melee with these guys. They are within 5 inches. So they go, blah, charging into melee. It's going to be 5 on 5. And the attackers are hitting on 4s. That means the French are hitting on 4s. Does anybody have anything special? They do not. So we'll roll for the French first. There are 2, 4, 5. There's actually 6 French, aren't there? All right. So I got 6 dice here for the French. They are hitting on 4s. And then I'm going to roll 5 dice for the British on this side of the road. They are hitting on 5s. So the British get a total of 1, 2, 3, 4 hits. And the French get a total of 1, 2, 3, 4 hits. So an equal number of hits. It's going to come down to the wound rolls. The British are going to roll, and the French are going to roll, and the British do 2 wounds and 2 shock. And the French do 5 wounds, which wipes these guys out. But at the cost of 2 of these guys, and they picked up 2 shock. That might have won the game for the French. Infantry may immediately move forward to vacate the space recently occupied by their enemy. So they move up, and they're right on the edge of the board now. Cavalry get to make a move after they win. Infantry does not. Next up is going to be these cavalry. And they get 1 reroll per turn, which they're not going to use. They're going to race 8 inches over to here. That way old Senior Cannon can't do anything to them. Then it's going to be this general over here who, what can we do with him? We're going to move him to, let's move him to here. And then we will, well, he's, I don't know, do we charge these guys? Can he even do that? 8 inches? We could melee with these guys. That might be the only way to stop the French from winning. Why don't we go ahead and, why don't we hold his action? And we'll see how things develop. We can decide at the end of the turn. I don't even know if that's in the rules. If I was playing against some guy, if I was playing against me, I would tell myself, no, you can't do that. You either got to attack these guys or not. And actually, you have to charge the nearest enemy. So he would have to charge these guys, which is near suicidal. So you have to have line of sight, so we can't charge there either. I guess maybe he could stand here. Well, it's all going to come down to the cards on the next turn. There's not much he can do. Let's pull him back just to keep him safe. I think that's suitably period specific. Now we have this general is going to be moving on the 4. And he can move a total of 8 inches. So we'll bring him up to here. Again, hiding in the woods. That is a double move. So he's out of the cannon fire range. But I don't know that it matters. So these guys spent last turn limbering up. And now they can move a total of 6 inches. So we're going to pull them 6 inches to here. They're racing for the end as a double move, right? It's 3 inches per move. And now when these guys reload on the next turn, they're going to have to fire at this cannon. And these guys, oh man, we salute you. Thank you for your sacrifice. Let's shuffle some cards. Here is the deal. And the French have just won the game, because they're going to get to activate on this king. And this 1 unit is going to escape from the table. 1 line infantry off. The next card to go will be this cannon, who can take a shot here. And we'll go ahead and play it out just for giggles. They're going to get to fire 3 dice at long range. They get a 9, 20, and a 7. So the 9 and the 20 will be hits. We'll roll for casualties with a 7 and a 10. They're going to do all 3. So the cannon is lost. He can't register, but then you see the 10 of spades goes next, and these guys are going to be able to charge boop, right off the table. That's your second unit. That is the end of the game. I don't think now these guys are going to get shot up by the skirmishers, but I don't, and of course our leader maybe, we could do a little leader fight here if we wanted to. 7, he comes over and blocks and he fights, but I think that this battle went the French way because the French had a great plan, and they executed it flawlessly. We've got 2 heavy-hitting units here. We are going to advance as fast as possible, keeping out of the line of fire, and we're just going to put as much pressure as possible. If the British had decided to move this cannon up further before, I think, given that this is where the main battlefield is, the one thing the British could have done that would have had more effect is brought this cannon up closer. Cannons, the way this works is that if you are within 6 inches, now, if that's the case, everything up to the road is in close range. So anybody that's over here, although they do only have a fire arc through here, I guess they'd really have to get all the way up to here. Let's see how many moves would that take? That would have been the first 1, 2. Yeah, that would be 2 moves, and then a third turn. On turn 4, they would be close enough, but close range would just be through here. So they could have forced a little bit more movement, maybe. I think that's really about the best the British could have done. You know, they did what they had to up here. They won the fight, but light cavalry against heavy cavalry, it's just tough. You're not going to be able to get a whole lot of effect out of that. They reduced their numbers considerably, but the British marksmanship did what it had to. But by bringing these, kind of leapfrogging their way up, get it? The French, they leapfrog, move and fire, leapfrog, get it? All right, I'm out of here. I'm done. I'm praying for you.